Got a little bit of a sell-off as the Russell's under some pressure. Let's keep talking about this week and closing out the year into 2025. That's got a lot of expectations built in now. Joining us from TCW, Eli Horton is a senior portfolio manager. Eli, thanks for being here with us this morning.
Oliver, good morning. Good to see you again.
We got a little bit of risk off hitting the market, but of course it's been a pretty impressive frothy rally. Kind of give me a short-term thought as we close out this year. What do you want to see in the rest of 2024?
2024 has certainly been an interesting year, and at TCW, one of our big strategies is investing behind large structural themes, energy transition, reshoring of manufacturing, and we've certainly seen a lot of evidence in support of both of those themes this year. We've seen almost $1.5 trillion of new manufacturing announced in the U.S. We've seen significant investments in our grid. I think we'll see more of the same in 2025.
What I like about some of your investing themes here is that they don't seem hyper policy dependent. I mean, some of this stuff has got some really good secular momentum behind it already. Obviously, the energy demands being associated with data center build out that's happening from technological innovation. Another theme you have is commercial aerospace. That seems like it's strong on its own given consumer. Waste management services is an interesting one. Railroads too. But let's start at the top with the data and the energy. A lot of folks have been playing that through nuclear. Is that a speculative way to play it, or how should you get exposure to energy?
Yeah, before we get right into nuclear, just take a big step back. I think you're right. These ideas are not policy dependent. I think by definition, secular structural trends and themes really rely on their own merits. And take the energy transition. The world needs to migrate from a fossil fuel-based system to a renewable system, and we're nowhere close. We are 20% of the way there if you just measure how much of our energy and power comes from renewables. We are seeing around $2 trillion of investment to migrate through this transition, and we think that investment will grow for many decades to come. So I think by definition, you're absolutely correct. It's not policy dependent. Jumping to nuclear.
Sure.
So we're really excited about a variety of investment opportunities in what we call a power scarcity, or the theme of power shortage and the need for grid investment. Demand for electricity in the United States was essentially flat for the past 2 decades, and that is rapidly changing. We are bringing manufacturing back. We're electrifying transportation and our entire economy. And now we have AI data centers, which I think are basically pouring gasoline on this fire. And so power demand could as much as double over the next 25 years. It gets even trickier to solve it because most of the new power generation that we're adding to the grid is in the form of wind and solar, which are intermittent in nature. And so if they're intermittent, you have to add more of them. So every 1 gigawatt of fossil fuels needs 2 to 3 gigawatts of renewables. So a doubling of power means a tripling of grid infrastructure, if you will. Nuclear is really a fuel source or a power source that is highly desired right now. We have a couple of investments in our energy transition strategy focused on nuclear. I think that is a power source that will be in demand for the years to come. A lot changing there.
What about the risk of overpaying or overcommitting to power that is not being consumed or produced quite yet? I just think about, like, for example, the 3 Mile Island thing, since you're in Constellation, and for Microsoft. Obviously, they, correct me if I'm wrong, or if you guys have more details, I'd love to hear them, but the amount that they're paying for this and what they're reserving, does it risk overcommitting when we don't know, like, the marketplace dynamics? There's not, like, this is like the first time nuclear power is going to connect to, like, data centers and stuff. Like, how do we know what the accurate market pricing is, and do companies risk then overpaying for it, and then we get into complications?
So you're right. We own Constellation. We also own Vistra. These are the 2 largest producers of nuclear power. We own those in NetZ. Transform Systems is the name of that strategy. And our thesis is that nuclear power is scarce. We've got something like 95 active reactors in this country. We've only added a few since the year 2000. The last one that was added was Vodal in Georgia, and that project ran $17 billion over budget in 7 years, longer than expected. So we're not adding new nuclear anytime soon. It burns 24/7. It's carbon free, and companies like Amazon and Microsoft have spoke with their dollars and said this is valuable to us because of the reliability and the clean nature, but also because we being Amazon and Microsoft, want to get our data centers up and running because of the importance of time to market, and so they're willing to pay a premium for this power. And just to put some numbers around that, earlier this year, the prevailing prices in PJM for nuclear were about $45 a megawatt hour. That was bid up by Amazon. It was bid up again by Microsoft to the 130, 140. So just in the span of 10 months, we've seen power prices essentially triple.
Exactly. Well, I guess then anyone who might be at risk of that would be the actual buyers of the power, like the Microsoft or the data centers. It's a good problem, or not even a problem. It's a good situation for Constellation if there's sort of like inelastic demand, it seems like. One of the other plays that you guys are in is GE Vernova, certainly underappreciated since the spinoff. How do they fit into this? GEV's had an incredible year.
Look, this is sort of classic for what we're trying to do. If you take a look at several of our strategies, we are really looking for secular opportunities that probably are not in most investors' portfolios. So we own GE Vernova in NetZ. That's our energy transition strategy. If you own the S&P 500, you probably have 8 to 10% exposure to the energy transition. So we're looking for these sort of less known opportunities. Now, GE Vernova was part of General Electric, of course, and it's spun out. And the crown jewel of that portfolio was the aerospace business. And the market missed that GE Vernova is one of 3 companies providing services and equipment for power generation on a large scale. And power generation is changing rapidly. I gave some stats earlier on how the demand algorithm is changing, and we're seeing demand for GE Vernova's services and its power systems explode, frankly. And so the market missed that. So kudos to the team. But we're looking for these kind of undercovered opportunities like GE Vernova.
Okay. Hey, I love the nuclear. I love the energy talk as a whole. But to make sure we at least knock out one more of these themes today, Eli, maybe a transition over to aerospace and commercial, the other side of GE, a player in that realm. How much of this is about the consumer and the jobs market and people being willing to pay to travel?
There's a couple elements to this theme, Oliver. So first of all, aerospace is very important in the transition of our energy system. As you'd imagine, airplanes that we fly on, they emit significant amount of carbon into the environment. GE, Safran, Airbus, these companies are all instrumental in developing the next generation engine, which burns 20% less fuel. Why does that matter? It's good for the environment, but it's even better for their customers. Airlines spend about 1/3 of their operating expense on fuel, so immediate savings to them. We've also seen an incredible amount of resiliency in the consumer. Look at the services PMI yesterday. Consumers continue to spend on experiences. We expect that to travel. The industry is coming off of still, a COVID downturn that was absolutely unprecedented in this industry. So we like the cyclical dynamics, but we like the structural dynamics even more. General Electric, Safran, and Airbus are large investments there.
All right. Great stuff. Eli, thanks a lot. Appreciate the details on the strategy. A few more in there we saved in the tank for next time. Good stuff.
Good to see you. Thanks.
Thank you. Eli Horton, Senior Portfolio Manager at TCW. All right, making the case for nuclear power, energy demand overall, and the commercial aerospace world, both sides, General Electric, V, and GE